Hello there, and welcome to a short video essay regarding role-playing games in video game format. More specifically, I'll be talking about what makes an RPG an RPG. Because if there's one thing I complain more about than anything else in the modern gaming industry, it's a lack of definition for what makes a proper RPG. So today I'll be providing a bit of clarification. To begin breaking down role-playing video games, we first need to visit the Wild West days of tabletop gaming, the year of 1974. This year would mark the dawn of a new era of tabletop gaming, the initial publishing of Dungeons & Dragons. It's difficult to explain the entirety of what D&D is to someone who's unfamiliar with it, but I will try my best. D&D is essentially a cooperative storytelling experience in which events and outcomes are not determined by a single storyteller, but by player choices and random chance. And those two aspects, choice and chance, are really the soul of the tabletop roleplay experience. Having these two storytelling aspects allow for an addictive, immersive experience with no upper limit on replayability. And today, immersive addictiveness goes hand in hand with what gamers are really looking for. So it's no surprise that people quickly became interested in adapting the RPG formula into video game format. But fast forward to 2019, you have the tag RPG applied to almost every single game that gets released these days. So this is the part of the video where I disapprove of the modern industry, bash on major publishers, disagree with design choices, and generally become very grouchy. Because no, a lot of these games that are released are not RPGs. Borderlands is a shooter with pointless weapon stats and flavor abilities. It's not an RPG. Assassin's Creed is a subpar reaction combat game with exploration elements, not an RPG. Witcher 3, one of my favorite games, is a narratively driven action game with a good upgrade system. It's not an RPG. The Dark Souls series, and this will get me a lot of dislikes, are combat and exploration games with deep upgrade systems, not RPGs. And while a few of these games have become synonymous with the genre, they lack one or more of the two crucial elements of the soul of the RPG. And they lack either chance or choice. And it's easy to be confused because the core elements of what makes a game a role-playing game has rarely been explained as having two parts. Instead, a design team will sit down and will designate their game as a role-playing game based on the fact that it includes either some form of RNG, some form of branching storyline, or some form of upgrading system. As an example, we'll take two of my all-time favorite games, The Witcher 3 and Final Fantasy X, and compare them. Both of these games I consider to be great, neither of them I consider to be RPGs. Because both of these games scratch the surface of RPG territory but refuse to wholly submerge into the genre. So in Witcher 3, you can make decisions on behalf of Geralt that vastly influence the world around him at multiple points in the main story. This is some immersive character narration, and it ensures that there's something new to learn about the plot and something new to learn about all the characters each time you play through it. On the other hand, as long as you have a pair of functional human hands and are capable of basic human reasoning, you'll probably never die on a standard playthrough. This is because combat is not determined by chance, and there are no possible random outcomes for your actions, but simply by reflexes alone. Now this doesn't make the game bad, in fact it makes the combat very fluid and fun to play. It simply doesn't make it an RPG, however. The chance factor of traditional RPG games is represented by a 20-sided dice. As a player, it's your responsibility to ensure that your character has bonus points you can add to that roll when the time calls for it. If you're falling into a cliff into a fast-moving river, it's time to roll the dice, and if you have a higher chance of surviving, if your swim skill is high enough, but it is not guaranteed. In an action-oriented game such as The Witcher, the player is rewarded for their actions on a 1-to-1 ratio, not necessarily rewarded on their choices. And there's no room for variation or chance because that would break the action game flow. Next up, we'll look at Final Fantasy X. This game makes absolutely no effort to hide the fact that it's out for your blood. If you play the game evenly just by moving along the main storyline without spending any time grinding on random encounters and leveling up, you're in for one hell of a gambling experience, and it is absolutely beautiful. The upgrade system is very much designed to reward the player for making the right upgrade decisions by improving their odds in combat. I mentioned how I said it improves your odds, but it does not guarantee victory. That's because the turn-based system the game relies on can be cruel and extremely unpredictable. It seems to know exactly what it needs to do to put you at a disadvantage at all times. And that's an amazing throwback to tabletop RPGs, because no matter how personally skilled you are at Dungeons & Dragons, no matter how well you've satted your character, if the Minotaur charging at you rolls a natural 20 followed by a maximum damage roll, you're gonna have a bad time. However, the game only has one singular plot and has pretty much no branching paths and very few character exploration arcs. And quite frankly, even with a single storyline to keep track of, the whole thing is a ridiculous jumbled mess of nonsensical motivations and ridiculous MacGuffins to progress the story. Which is odd because I remembered loving the story of the game when I was young, but on a recent playthrough I couldn't help but laugh out loud at how campy and forced a lot of the plot elements are. So here we have two massively enjoyed game titles that a lot of people remember, but they both exist under the genre of RPG. But for me, both of these games missed the mark on capturing that sensation of playing a traditional pen and paper RPG. That isn't to say it's impossible to make an RPG in video game format. There's quite a few digital titles out there that really do capture the spirit of it. You better believe I'm not the only one keeping an eye out for them. So to wrap things up, I'd like to make a plea to the modern game developer. If you plan on creating anything within the RPG genre, try to keep in mind the soul of choice and chance. If you do, you'll make a lot of nerds very happy.